For the Porsche enthusiast, being faster doesn't necessarily mean more horsepower. And it doesn't necessarily mean a better 0 to 60 time. And it most definitely doesn't necessarily mean a better quarter-mile time. For the Porsche enthusiast, the faster Porsche is one with better lap times. Porsche designed the GT4 to be a formidable track weapon as well as a great street car. Aerodynamics, braking, suspension, all set up for that, and some of it is adjustable. But did you know, when you get your GT4 out of the factory, it is not set up for the maximum performance they've tested it at? Today I'm going to show you 3 things that you can do to make your car better set up for the track so you can get the maximum performance. Plus, be sure to stick around for one small tip from me, something I used to not think is that important, but now I think it is important, so keep watching. Now, much of what I'm going to tell you today is outlined in Porsche's owner manual supplement called Driving on the Race Circuit. There's a lot of tips in there on how to set up your car, and they're not very detailed, so in this video I hope to give you plenty of details so you feel comfortable doing it yourself. Porsche executed many aerodynamic elements on the car to improve its handling, and of course one of them is the big rear wing. But when you get out of the factory, it's actually set at the lower angle of attack for less downforce. You can actually change the angle of the wing to its second position, which gives you 4 degrees of angle of attack and more downforce in the rear. I'm going to show you how to do that today, but more downforce in the rear means you're going to need more downforce in the front, and I'm going to show you how to change that as well. Next, I'm going to show you how to properly adjust the front and rear sway bars or anti-roll bars to dial in or out understeer and oversteer for your driving style or the type of driving that you're doing, because even the sway bar settings may not be set up just right for you and your car out of the factory. After this, you should feel comfortable doing all this on your own car, so let's get started. The wing of the GT4 is mounted to the wing uprights with T30 Torx screws and nuts. Screws come in from the outside, and on the inside of the uprights are the nuts. Once you remove them, you can see that the wing has 2 adjustable positions by the 2 holes in the mounting point. So what we'll do is simply loosen the forward T30 screws and nuts and remove completely the rearward T30 screws and nuts. With the rearward screws and nuts removed and the front ones loose, now the wing is free to tilt into the new position. You'll also notice there is a plastic spacer or washer in between the upright and the wing mount, so make sure that gets aligned before putting your screws and nuts back in. Once the holes are lined up, replace your screws and nuts. Now you can simply hand tighten these if you don't have a proper torque wrench. They are in there snug, but you definitely don't want to muscle them on. If you do have a proper torque wrench, the Driving on Race Circuits manual specifies that they should be set to 6 foot-pounds, which is about 72 inch-pounds. Most torque wrenches don't do so well on the low end of their scale, so that's why I'm using this inch-pounds one, and it's perfect for the job. To change the downforce in the front, you'll need to lift at least the front of the car. I'm going to use the quick jacks because it makes things really easy. Under the front of the car, just ahead of each of the front wheels, you'll find these small deflectors. These are here to basically spoil the front downforce when you have the wing in the flat position. So if we want more lift under there, we need to remove the spoilers, and they just come off with 2 T25 Torx screws. Once those are removed, the air flows more smoothly, creating more negative lift or downforce. Next, I'm going to be showing you how to adjust the front and rear sway bars. The sway bars, or anti-roll bars, attempt to keep the car flat in turns, and having one soft versus another one may affect your under and oversteer of the car. The sway bar has 3 settings: soft, medium, and hard. The hard setting is the hole closest to the bar, the soft setting farthest from the bar. Let's say you've got some understeer in the car. Well, you can improve the understeer by either tightening up the rear sway bar to the harder setting, or putting the front sway bar to a softer setting, or both. Both these things will contribute to fixing that understeer, or maybe start making it oversteer. The opposite is true if your rear end's a little loose. You'd want to tighten up the front and loosen up the rear, or both. Porsche delivers the sway bars in the middle setting, but the hive mind of the Porsche community says that on the 2016s, the 981 GT4, it's generally better to set the rear to the hard position and the front to the medium position. For the 718s, it's generally accepted that the middle position is the best to start with, and of course, you want to make changes as necessary for your driving style and how your car performs. If you make any modifications, these things may have to be changed as well. Now, the nuts on the sway bar end links, those are meant to be changed out every time that they're installed. However, I use mine multiple times. I will swap them out as they start to round out. You do put a lot of torque on them and they can round out. They've also got built-in sort of Loctite on them, and it's a good idea to use blue thread locker of some type every time you install them to ensure they don't back off. Don't use the red stuff though. You don't want to permanently lock them on. Although sway bars can often be adjusted while the car's on the ground, the GT4 is pretty low, so I do recommend lifting the car, and if you only want to lift one end, make sure you lift both the left and right wheel. It'll equalize the sway bar load on each side, making it much easier to deal with. At the rear wheels, there are these brake ducts. You could do this with those on, but they do get in the way. So remove the 2 T25 torque screws to take the brake ducts off. They just sort of clamshell on there. They're a little harder to put back on, but they're very easy to remove. What you see here is the actual sway bar, but this narrow piece of rod is the sway bar end link, and it attaches here at the sway bar end. We need to detach the end link. This nut is a 16mm nut. Now you can break it loose, but it's not going to turn much farther than this because the whole assembly starts to spin. You'll need to hold the center of the nut, the screw inside, with a T30 Torx bit and a wrench. Now, I highly recommend using the 16mm wrench to loosen the nut and not use a ratchet like I am here to tighten the center screw, because a Torx is likely to get stripped out and you'll have to replace the whole end link, which is about 90 bucks, while if you ruin a nut, it's only $3. Once you've removed the end link nut, you can pull the end link out from the sway bar and reposition it to a new hole. In this case, I'm moving it to the tighter position. Put the nut back on, and again, I suggest cranking down with the wrench. And then we need to do a final torque of 30 foot-pounds, and then 30 degrees beyond that point. Now you're done with that end, you can put the brake ducts back on. You'll know they're in properly when they don't jiggle around, but I did have to mess with them for a while. For the front sway bar, it's basically the same thing. Make sure both wheels are off the ground, remove the nut, reposition the end link, and put the nut back on. 30 foot-pounds of torque plus 30 degrees of rotation. Now, this is all for just demonstration purposes only. I've been autocrossing and tracking the car a lot, and honestly, I've found that the middle position does work fine for my driving style. All right, now like I said, one small tip for you, not only a safety tip, but also a little bit of a financial tip, and that is center caps. The center caps should be removed for track days, and the SCCA says they should be removed for autocross. Now, most people don't even do that, and many track event organizers don't really enforce it, but I've learned the hard way, it's a good idea to remove them. First of all, if you lose one on the track, it could be a safety issue. Some other car might hit it, it might damage another car. And you might think, well, why is it even gonna come off? It's in there pretty tight. Well, if you catch a berm the right way, or you go off track, or In my case, if it was really hot out and your brakes are heating up your hubs quite a bit, you can actually melt some center caps. Now, I haven't seen that with Porsche, but I did see it with some aftermarket wheels and center caps. And you see, these things are kind of expensive, and I really don't feel like replacing them, especially when you generally buy them in a set of 4. So removing them is easy. You don't have to remove your wheels. You might think you do. Suncoast sells this little tool here. It's kind of overpriced, and it removes your center caps. You don't need to buy this, folks. Just get a pick set from Harbor Freight, just a 90-degree pick like this one, and you just stick it into one of the holes that are already built into the center cap and pull. There you go. It's as easy as that. Don't waste your money on special center cap tools. It's just not necessary. But when you put your center caps back on, the proper way is to always have the bottom of the crest pointing towards the valve stem, just like that. Now, these are just some of the initial steps to take. You should always take your car to get inspected by a competent mechanic before track days, and if you're competent enough, you'll know what to look for. But the Driving on Race Circuits manual supplement from Porsche does outline a lot of the things you should be looking for. There's even a checklist. All the consumables that you normally have while doing normal driving go much faster on the track, so you really want to check every time: your brake pads, your rotors, your brake fluid, your oil, your coolant, and your tires and your tire pressures. For example, Porsche says change your brake fluid out every 2 years under normal driving, but when it comes to track driving, they say every year, and probably a little more often depending on how much you track your car. Now, if you're interested, by the way, in learning how to bleed the brakes on your GT4, including the ABS system, be sure to check out this other video I did on the channel. Now remember, I'm no expert. I'm probably more of an amateur like you, but I have plenty of experience with cars, and thanks to all of you who contribute your information to the forums and the Facebook groups, as well as those official sources like from Porsche and that Driving on Race Circuits supplement, we can gather all that information and I can deliver it here on this channel to you in a more succinct fashion, and I hope I did a good job. If you think I did, hit that like button, consider hitting the super thanks button, and I would love your subscription. Hit the bell to be notified of future Porsche content. Thanks so much for watching the Jet Fuel Only channel. We'll see you next time.